Hi there, and welcome to the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. We're Paris and Alana, friends who have a heart for intimacy and long to uncover God's truth and design for sexual freedom within marriage. Welcome here.
But I'm going for it. But I'm going to do it. All right, we're live. We're live.
Okay, now I gotta think of what I gotta say. Okay, so this was a... No, I gotta restart. What was I gonna say? Okay, no.
Restart and restart.
I know. Sometimes I start a thought and I don't know what I'm gonna say. I'm like, dude, that's why you edit. After our last followers Q&A episode, we found out that you guys really enjoyed it, and we actually really, really loved it too. Mm-hmm. So we figured, let's just do another one here right away, because why not? You like it, we like it. It's a win-win.
And there were so many questions. There is no way we were getting through all of them. There's still no way we're getting through all of them. But what we tried to do is group the most frequently asked questions and ones that really stood out to us, especially ones that we haven't addressed in the podcast yet. So that's what we're coming at you with today, with a special emphasis on premarital stuff today. Might I add? We're pretty excited about this. You guys are amazing. We have such a variety of followers, and we know that there is a whole beautiful group of you out there that are not married yet, and you are consciously, intentionally guarding your purity, working through things, and wanting to be prepared for your marriage. And we want you guys to know we are definitely coming out with resources for you guys. Pray for us as we do this. Give us grace, but it is coming. So, Alana, definitely. Let's go for it. Let's go for the premarital things first. I'm excited about this. So, all right. This is one I think most people can relate to, and it's coming out of or addressing sexual sin as a dating/engaged couple. How do we go about this? This is such... Yeah. First off, don't judge yourself and get hard on yourself about what you're doing, because all of us have fallen into this, you guys. Like, Alana and I have each shared briefly our sextimonies, and man, the temptation is real, because the feelings are real. And if you can really work on guarding that as something that you know is going to be a blessing within marriage, because that's how God has designed it for, and safeguarding it, that is huge. So there's some we've talked about before, a lot of like getting people praying over you. Yes. Right?
Yeah. And it's interesting to, like, I know I like how you address, like, you're not alone, because definitely. I remember when I was in it, I was like, oh man, like, I'm the only one. Yeah. Yes. So there's so much freedom in knowing that, okay, no, there's these two girls who have a podcast and they also struggle with this too. Absolutely. So no, you're not alone. We're not alone. We know that. So, yes. But with that said, yes, find people around you. And we've talked about this before. I feel like, did we have a whole episode on this?
You know what? I'm starting to think we may have.
Whoops. Okay. I think
if
there
only
is. But
we could remember and just snap back all that information. But
yeah, just like insert a sound clip from a previous episode. But no, so just find people to, surround yourself with, to pray for you and keep you accountable. 100%. I was talking with a great friend who was getting married, and she's like, I expected people to
just come
to keep things. Yeah, to just come to me and ask how we were doing and keep me accountable, but no one just volunteered that, right? Yeah. And it's like, it's true. Like, I was like, man, I didn't do that for you because I didn't want to seem nosy or, prying into your personal life. But at the same time, maybe, married women or, people who have experienced marriage and stuff, maybe we do have a role to play in keeping these young dating couples accountable and checking in on them, right? Just seeing how they're doing. So anyways, just another great thought for even like us married couples as well. It's like, how can we help?
Yeah. Coming forward together, as brothers and sisters in Christ, because as believers, we know that there's such a spiritual battle out there, with the physical, and when things get sexual, you guys, like, God made those feelings. God made us as sexual, sensual beings, and it's a beautiful thing. And it is hard to close those doors once you open
Yeah.
them a crack, which is a beautiful thing, you know? Like, that's how God's designed it in marriage, and it's beautiful to keep pursuing that. But to really focus in, like Alana said, on consciously protecting yourselves, get people praying for you, find godly couples that can keep you accountable, that you check in with, make a schedule, be like, every Monday 6:00, here we are, we're checking in on things, we're going over things, pray together, you know, all these kind of things. Pray as a couple, you know, bring things forward together, make sure your communication is open. There's so many things that you guys can actively do. And I think even just knowing that you have someone to keep you accountable, like, it puts the fear of God in you just a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh,
Not
sure.
in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. But you're coming forward. You know, you've promised to be honest in this, and now you got to be honest. So it's an amazing tool to use. So you guys, I encourage you to use it. Go find a couple that is godly and you respect, and have them check in on you and cover you, your whole engagement in dating, because that's huge.
It was our Purity Chats episode.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So you can go listen to our Purity Chats,
Yeah.
and that will kind of explain some of that more
Love
for you
it.
who are interested.
Okay, next one.
All right.
Adding fear coming up to the wedding night / how do I prepare for the wedding night consciously now? I love this question. First and foremost, can I just commend you on being conscious that you're preparing for it? That's half the battle right there, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it's something that makes me sad to think of, because a lot of people don't prepare for their forever. They prepare for the wedding, and the wedding is one day. I'll be very honest with you.
Yeah.
If that's what you've prepared for, you're going to be sorely disappointed after that day is done. Prepare for your forever after. And preparing for your wedding night as a couple is huge, because it really dictates a lot of things going forward, you know, depending on how it goes. It sticks with you, and it can stick with you in a negative way or a positive way or as a neutral way. And having open communication is going to determine a lot of that, you know, as a couple. If you go in with nothing said about it and you're just going to see what happens, that's very risky.
Yeah.
It's so risky.
And I feel like we've talked about this too, and just like having those conversations. I'm like, you know, what are our expectations for our wedding night? And, you know, what are we going to do? What are we not going to do? How could we, you know, relax into this as a couple after this, like, high intensity, like maybe fun, maybe slightly stressful, busy day?
Yeah.
How can we then relax and actually just focus on each other?
Make it personal to you guys.
Yes.
No one said that you need to go all out and have sex on your wedding night. Also, not all of us come from the same background. Some of us had previous relationships. Some of us slept around before we came to Christ. Some of us, you know, it's just so different. You know, you and your future spouse have a totally different story than anybody else, and you know it best. So you need to curate your wedding night to that, you know, because for us to just sit here and be like, okay, here it is, this is our best advice, do this, do that, and you're gonna be like, well, that didn't vibe to me because, you know, my fiance has had sexual relationships with other people, I'm a virgin, how do we go from there, you know? Like, it's all so different. So getting everything on the table and being very honest with each other, even get honest about your fears, get honest about your concerns, get honest about what you're excited for, what you think you're gonna be so passionate about, like all of it. It's so important. Just throw it all on the table. And same thing, you guys, we're always going to keep coming back to prayer. Have people pray over this, you know, covering your wedding night in blessing, your marriage bed in blessing and redemption and healing, whatever it is that you guys are coming into it with. That's a big deal.
There's so many ways to think about it, where it's like you're maybe like overthinking it, but there's always like that maybe oversimplifying it. Like, I don't know. I feel like I like how you worded it. It's just like, you have to curate it to you, right?
Yeah, totally.
Do what you need to do as a couple for your wedding night. And yeah, I think that'll make it the most special.
Yeah. And that leads into another question that we've gotten from quite a few followers, and it's, what is the best advice you would give to virgins specifically preparing for their wedding night? And we're not singling out virgins here, you guys, but I will tell you from my personal perspective, I can speak to this. So can Alana, because my husband and I were each virgins coming to our marriage bed. So is Alana and Jeff. And you guys, we know nothing. That's why we're asking this question. So, advice for virgins preparing for the wedding night. First of all, you are so strong for committing to this. It is not easy. We all know it's not easy. And I think the biggest thing as virgins is the same thing, getting on the same page, really exploring your whole idea, your whole dream of what, your wedding night is to be together, and sharing that together, and talking about expectations, talking about realizations, talking about fears. It's kind of goes into what we just said, but as virgins, it's important to also have done prep work to understand the male and female anatomy. Get yourself sheet music. Do that. Right. That is one of our biggest books that we recommend. Get yourself that book. And depending on where you're at as a couple, and how you deal with learning about sexuality amidst being engaged and working towards a marriage, will determine, if you guys are cool with reading that book over months on end, or if that's way too much and you're going to do this in 2 months before the wedding kind of deal. But that's an amazing place, because that book covers all the things for, I think, especially virgins going into the wedding night. I gleaned so much from that personally. As a young wife and a young married couple, when we first.
Yeah, no, I definitely wish I would have had this book when we first got married and stuff. That would have been so great. Yeah. Didn't even know books like this existed back then. But
right?
No, definitely would have been a great resource. So yes, highly recommend.
Do you have anything to add on that though, Alana? Advice for virgins going to the wedding night or preparing for it?
I think often, you kind of touched on it, but often there can be a bit of fear. I often hear from, virgins just not knowing what to expect. Like, is it going to be painful? All these other things, just being really open and honest with each other. And like, I was talking to a friend who was going to be getting married, and I was like, you know what? And we said, like, obviously this isn't a one size fits all for everyone. Every relationship is different. But I was like, think about the things that, when you do when you're dating, and it just like makes you like so filled up. I was like, it's like making out, right? When you're making out, and like, that's maybe the gateway that maybe wants you to lead to more things, right? So I was like, so it's your wedding night, you're hanging out, just like go make out. Like, I don't know, things like that. I didn't even think of that on our wedding night, right? To just stop to do that, right? But it's like just to relax and just hang out. I don't know, like, and just enjoy each other's company.
Totally. The biggest thing, like, if I'm going to speak just psychologically, the biggest thing is to be present with each other. Focus on intimacy, not sex, on your wedding night. Be present with each other. Make those moments you'll never forget. Don't put the pressure on sex. We're virgins. Like, what are we going to do? We have no idea what we're doing. Right? Yeah. Like, and the beauty of it is you have forever to explore that. Don't do it all on the wedding night when you can be together and just slowly figure things out. That's what the honeymoon's for. Like, it's beautiful to just take that maybe backseat a little bit and know that you do not have to perform, which I think is a huge lie. So many of us going into marriage believe as virgins that we have to perform. We need to do all the things. Like, we know what to do, right? But that's what we think.
Yeah.
No, it's good. That's really good. Okay, you guys, I did actually set a timer. We're going over time a little bit, so it gave us another 5 minutes. I can't believe
we already went over time.
We are almost over time. Yeah, this is going so fast. So, Alana, pick the next question.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to take a different route than we were thinking.
Yes.
I'm going to go with when you and your spouse have different lovemaking or affection styles.
Good one. This could be a whole episode.
So what do you do? Yeah, but let's briefly, 5 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. I think giving yourselves a lot of grace and room to grow in that area. Maybe challenge each other. You know, if one person is a very like outgoing, you know, I don't want to say aggressive personality, but they're all there. They're Paris Simpson. Like, and then the other person is like maybe just a really tender, soft, like just gentle-hearted person, you know, in this marriage relationship. I'm just making an analogy because that's the best thing I can think of to say right now. How do you mesh that, you know, when you're very opposites? Because we know that, you know, we attract opposites in marriage. There's always huge opposites in one way or another in everybody's marriages. So when it comes to lovemaking, personality types definitely will determine like how one person might naturally go about things and the other person will naturally go about things, and then you realize, whoa, this is intimidating, or whoa, this is really different than what I imagined.
It even makes me think actually of like love languages at the same time when it was like different affection styles. So like maybe your spouse is really like touchy and, you know, wants to touch you all over, and you're like, well, maybe just don't do that. Maybe just do this instead. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, but at the same time, I think if you can like graciously, depending on, you know, your preferences, be like, hey, why don't you try this instead? Or maybe touch me here. Or I think you have to just try and be open as much as you can without, you know, stomping on feelings, but, you know, graciously and with love.
Yeah.
Just like sharing, hey, I love it when you make sounds, or I love it when you want to try new things, or in a different position or a different room. What are your thoughts on that? You know, to just try and have the dialogue, which, yeah, it's always about dialogue. It's always about talking. But I think that's one thing that would help if you and your spouse have like vastly different lovemaking styles or whatever.
And you know,
preferences.
It's a beautiful thing to get to the point where you can just serve each other out of the goodness of your hearts, and you're like, tonight I'm going to go all out to do you. Like, I'm going to do what you love for you. And vice versa, right? You know, there's going to be times where there's many times in many scenarios in our marriages, not just making love, but that we're just fully serving the other person because we love them. And I think this definitely comes into play here. Alana, you talked on like meshing things and melding things and working together in grace through things, but then there's totally that side of just serving as well, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's learning to find a balance between the two and having that communication always going.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
That's a good question.
It is a good question. What's another one that we want to take? We have a couple minutes left. Oh, this one. I like this one that was asked. There's a few ladies, a handful of you actually asked about sex positions to do when you find that you either A, experience pain because of like deep penetration, or B, I almost did something really
sorry. I was like, I'm excited for you to say this.
I need to word this wisely. Okay. I do not want to offend someone here. Or B, looking at the different sizes between you and your husband. Some of us are married to giant men, and we're tiny women. That's just the reality. I'm not a tiny woman. I'm almost as tall as Neil. But that's the thing. And like, I have girlfriends, and they're married to giant men, and they're little tiny women. And we've had these conversations. I'm like, how, Alana, that's you. You're one of them.
Hi, it's me.
Hi, it's me. But like, sometimes that affects anatomy, you know, when we're talking about your man's package, and depending on your size too, that's a legitimate concern. Some women go into marriage and they're like, whoa, like, you're already, you know, 7 feet taller than I am. What else is going to be, you know,
right,
a little bit daunting? Like, hello, can I accommodate this? I don't know.
That was great. That was really graceful.
Right? I'm trying really hard to be sensitive. Give me some grace here. But, okay. But you know what I'm talking about. So, there is positions, you guys, that you can utilize if it is just way too much and it's painful and it's challenging with the size differences. So woman on top, I'll tell you guys right now, there is so many good little articles throughout a lot of the books that we recommend to you guys in our Kingdom Sexuality library on our website that talk about these things. And if penetration and going too deep, or your husband just got a big package and you've got all of that going on, woman on top positions is what you want to master. Like hands down, or like there's Alana every Wednesday. Alana, you are the sex position queen. How do you like that title?
Hi, it's me again. Hey. Oh my gosh.
Alana is very keen on making sure she puts a huge variety out there because we're accommodating so many different people at different life stages, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to know, like, different positions will greatly affect how things feel. Like, greatly. Like, you might think sex is sex and penetration is penetration, but it's not, okay? You should give every different position you try at least 2 to 3 tries, if not more, and get the hang of it and feel things out. Because not only is like, I mean, yeah, he's penetrating you, but there's also angles to work with. There's pressures to work with. There's a lot to work with. So when you're on top, you can navigate all of that. And it's not just literally a shot in the dark. Like, you're able to manage all of that. And I think that's really empowering for us to know as women, especially, you know, going back to our first conversations talking about wedding night stuff. That's a good thing to know. Like, when you are on top as the wife, you can manage through a lot of that because you're the one that's like very vulnerable at that moment.
Yeah. You're in charge.
You're in charge. It's a good place to be when you're experimenting and working through different things. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thought I had would be to definitely make sure you're doing a lot of like foreplay and just like make sure you're doing a lot of getting ready stuff so that, you know, you're ready to go. Yeah.
Because
so
if
like
you're not ready to go too, like, you're not going to be lubricated naturally. Your body's not going to be there. So that always adds to you being not totally comfortable, which is just not an awesome feeling.
No. So yeah, I think that would be a great point too. And you know what? There's so many things like I didn't know before getting married. And then I know we've had some questions from followers as well. It's like, you know, I keep getting UTIs, you know, after having sex and things like that, or maybe they don't really realize it, but there can totally be a thing where, you know, with, you know, penetration's too deep and then things, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but then you get a uterine tract infection because of it's too deep, and I need to do my research, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
So something I didn't know before I got married, but then people are like, why am I getting these bladder infections? It's like, oh, well, maybe you need to switch up positions.
Yeah, that was, I can vouch for that. That was literally me.
Yeah.
Really wet. I was like, what's happening to me? I'm very embarrassed to go to the doctor.
Yeah. So often, like, even like to often doing like, what's the word? I don't want to say like doggy style. Is that a weird word to
That's what
say doggy style?
Called.
That's what it's called. Okay. But doing that like rear entry for the woman, that often can be very, very deep penetration, and that can often lead to a UTI. So things like that, just like you just don't know necessarily, especially if you're going back to the virgins. Maybe we just don't know that. So I think just having these conversations, getting open and honest with people, being like, hey, did you know this, you know, before you get married? Did you know this? Like, let's talk about this for a second. And I feel just like having those conversations where it can just be really eye-opening.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's really good. I feel like we could do a whole episode on that too, like just talking about position.
Oh my goodness.
And, you know, where you're at in life. Like, you don't want to have deep penetration when you are newly married, okay? You're virgins. When you've just had a baby, when you're coming out of surgery or any kind of things like you just said, having urinary tract infection, all these things, it's good to have a nice little storage compartment of sex positions that you have tried and that are tried and true, and you can fall back on them so that they minister to different areas of your life. I did not know that was a thing, by the way, when I first was married. And I was like, people would be very wise if they had told me this, or I would have been very wise if I had asked this, actually.
Right, I guess. But like, how would you know to ask?
I know how to know to ask. As a newlywed, I thought there was just one position.
I remember Googling it and being so overwhelmed. So overwhelmed.
So trying things is very
oh
important, like, because it's going to help in many different areas to come, in many different years to come. Yeah. Don't just have your routine sex position, you guys. Trust me.
Well, this is really great, and I think we should do more of these.
I know. Let's do our last one. This one I thought was so beautiful. I don't want to leave this out. Okay, we're vastly changing from the last topic to this one, okay? There's really no connection here, but it's an important part of marriage, so I guess we can connect it. How to develop a praying relationship with your husband, not just individual prayer lives. And I want to close on this because I think it's very beautiful, and we talked about already several of the things we talked about tonight was on how important prayer is in all of these areas. So I love that this question was asked, and they said it has nothing to do with sex, but I want to say it has everything to do with every part of your life, sex included.
Yeah.
You know, developing a praying relationship with your husband is, I think, one of the most intimate things that we can do as wives. It's a very beautiful place to be in, and it's a very special thing. It's very sacred, is it not? Like, to come together with your husband and pray and intercede on your behalves, on other behalves, and I think it's just beautiful. And I think it's a very beautiful conversation. Just sit down and have with your husband. Just be like, hey, you know, I've just been feeling really like the Spirit's just been leading me towards this. Like, how do you feel about this? How can we do this? How can we implement this? When is going to be our set time to pray? You know, it's a fun conversation to have.
No, I think it's really good. And I like, too, how, I don't know, this doesn't have to be a big intimidating thing. It can be, you know, something you can bring your kids into, like incorporate, show them how you pray as a family. Like, I think it can incorporate, like, permeate so many different areas of your life as you know, try and show what it looks like to love Jesus and pray together, but also, include your kids. Pray and thank Jesus for this day, like for the clouds, for the sunshine. Like, I think there's so many things where you can include your family, but then also just make it really personal and just have that time before bed or whenever it is to just
get together,
bring up the things and just pray through them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, you're right. This is really fun. We do need to do these more often. It's very fun meeting you guys where you're at and just talking about these things. Totally unscripted. Maybe it's a little bit dangerous too, but
a little bit intimidating sometimes. You're like, oh, can I say this?
Should I say this?
Well, okay, let's just go.
This is coming out in the editing.
Right? Oh. But I think it's fun. I think it's fun when we can be unscripted and just free to visit and respond to the questions that, like, our followers actually have and,
I love it.
Genuinely want to know, because I think that's a really special way that we can connect and keep building a community as a little place in the world.
I agree. So, I love that too.
So grateful.
Very special. So with that said, Alana and I truly want to thank you from the deepest part of our hearts. You guys trust us, and we don't take that lightly, and we want you to know that. Every question that you guys give us, we keep it totally anonymous because we respect you guys and we love you guys. So we want to let you know that. And no, we definitely did not get through all the questions tonight. We maybe did 5.
No.
But everything you guys do share with us, we write it down and we keep notes of it because we will implement that in the future. And we want you guys to know that. Also, Alana, we should do a live again soon and do Q&As on there. Those are always so fun.
That's a good idea.
Right?
Yeah, when my internet holds up. That's great.
Same.
I love that.
Love it. Okay, you guys, that is what we got for you tonight. We hope you love that. We love you guys. We're excited for our next Q&A.
Hey friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us as we dive deeper into meaningful, godly intimacy, tackle the hard questions, and embrace truth while we're at it. We're also on Instagram at Kingdom Sexuality. You'll find our Instagram handle below in the show notes, where you'll also see any other resource links we may have mentioned in today's episode. As always, our hearts are to cultivate deep community and freedom with you guys, and we cannot wait to continue this journey alongside you. We'll see you in the next episode.